Hello, good morning. Can you tell I'm excited? I am really, really happy. This is another episode of CoachesCorner.health with me, one of your co-hosts, Leslie Gaudette, self-care specialist to women who are in business, who have strong CEO skills, but need to incorporate more self-care into their daily life and business so that it supports them emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Over to you, Andy.
Hello, I'm Andy Lidstone. I love your introduction every time. I'm Andy Lidstone, the unconditional coach. I show up for people who want to create more results in their life, generally in their relationships with other people, although also within their relationships with themselves. So, welcome to another episode. Welcome to an exciting show, our last one before the Christmas break. Today, we're talking about a wonderful topic. We call it I Can't Do This Anymore.
Yes.
Um, it's the frustration a lot of people feel, either with other people or with family, especially at Christmas time, or around different kinds of holidays when they're getting together with other people, when they find themselves interacting with family and friends and coworkers, maybe more socially than they would normally do. And a lot of people get frustrated by that, but also they get frustrated with the shopping and with the traffic, and depending on where you live, with the weather, and there's all kinds of things that people get frustrated with. And a lot of people, I find a lot of people this time of year saying, I can't do this anymore. So let's dig into that a little bit. What does that entail? What's it all about, and where does it come from? And the biggest question for the last few weeks is it a problem or is it a symptom?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for today
Me too.
because I truly believe, for myself, I really believe this is really a symptom of a deeper problem,
Hmm.
and the reason why I believe that is because it comes down to self care. I truly
Yes.
believe it comes down to self care and how you take care of yourself, meaning a lot of the time we wear hats, right? Like multiple hats. Even if you're a dad, like you're
Yep.
wearing those multiple hats. You could be dad, you could be husband, you could be CEO, you could be caregiver to aging parents, you could be, even caregiver to siblings. You could be the main person in the family that everybody goes to for their problems, looking for
Yep.
advice, and that takes a lot of energy. And
Yeah.
if you're not taking care of yourself, like I really truly believe that you should be on the top of your list first. Number one, and the reason why I'll tell you the number one reason behind that is when you take care of you first, you show up as the best you, not only for yourself, but everyone else gets the best you as well. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I really do truly, truly believe that it's a symptom of a bigger problem. But I can't wait to dig into this with you today. I'm really super excited. And also because before we get started on the topic, is this is going to be our very last episode for 2022, which is, although it has me sad, I'm also extremely grateful that we had such an amazing year of the topics and the things that we spoke about. And I'm really excited for what's coming, like for 2023 and beyond, like whatever we decide, wherever we want to take this channel. It's really been such a labor of love for both of us that,
Yes.
we really love showing up. This is something that we truly love doing. And
Yeah.
it's not even an infringement of our time. It's really about, okay, let's talk about this. We're excited. Let's get going.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. First of all, yeah, it is very much a labor of love. We have had this has got to be what, episode number 50 for 2022. So we've been doing this for a while. We did it most of the way through 2021 as well. So we've been doing this for a while, and I don't think either one of us has really thought of it as any kind of an inconvenience or any kind of a sacrifice. We get on these shows to serve you, and it energizes each of us. The conversations that we have on here, um, although it is designed to help you, our listener, our audience, it is. We also get a lot out of this ourselves. We first of all we learn a lot about each other and and about different topics, but we also just the conversations that we have. You can tell usually in the conversations that we're as you're listening to them, we love this stuff. We love talking about this stuff. We love, talking about it together. The conversations that we have, they're wonderful, and it's this time of year every year that we get to sit down and be grateful for that, and be thankful for that. But back onto the topic for again, it's I agree that we should put ourselves at the top of the list, and that's controversial for most people. Now, the only exception is for those of us who have, some faith or God in our lives. We can put God at the top of the list.
Of course.
Um, and next is us, and that's the controversial part, because most people are brought up to serve other people first, to put other people's needs before their own, to it's selfish to think of yourself before other people. And like Leslie said, I think that's the problem. I think that's the symptom of a deeper problem. Um, when we say I can't do this anymore, it's because we have been putting other people first, or we have been expecting things from other people that they haven't been giving us, or that they've been doing something that, acting in a way that we don't like, whether it's winter traffic or shopping malls, or whether it's our spouse or our kids or our parents or our friends, people close to us, or someone close to us. Whatever the case may be, we get into this I can't do this anymore because something deeper is going on. What's actually happening most of the time is we have some kind of an expectation, some kind of a behavior that we think should be happening and it isn't, or that we think shouldn't be happening and it is. And what what I want to ask you is, can you be happier without having to change the activities of other people? Self-care is about that. Putting ourselves at the top of the list means we do what we have to do to create that happiness, that peace, that love, that joy. What we do. You can't create my joy. I can't create your joy. I can help, but I won't always know what to do. And sometimes even when I do know what to do, I'll do it wrong. So the only person that knows what I want and what I need is me. Other people can try, and we can tell them, but just because we say it doesn't mean they get it, doesn't mean they understand, and doesn't mean they'll get it completely. Even when we've been married for 27 years, they still don't get it.
So true. And you're right, because it's not about providing. Yeah, I provide an environment based on how I'm feeling, and if I'm looking after myself, that makes for a happier environment for anyone else who comes into that circle. But it's not their obligation to make me happy, because what number one, if they go out of their way, and I've said this before, if they go out of their way to do everything they think I need to make me happy, and if it doesn't meet my expectations because they're not in my head with me and understanding what's mulling around in there and what my expectations are, because maybe I'm not voicing them. And if I choose not to be happy, no matter what they do, it's going to fall on deaf ears and it's not going to make anything different. It's not going to change. So I agree with you there.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is our own responsibility. We're at the top of the list. Now, and like you said, like you touched on for just a second there, if we take care of ourselves first and create that peace and happiness and joy and love in our own lives, if we create that for ourselves first, what we do is we end up being able to create a fountain of those positive emotions, of those positive feelings. We end up creating an environment where people want to be in there, and when they come in there, they feel those warm fuzzy feelings. Because we created them for ourselves first, we are then overflowing with the love and the peace, all that positive stuff that they want to feel. that they want to be a part of. People want to be around that. Now, if they're also creating love and happiness in their lives, then they also create that environment. And what we end up with is is a whole environment of where everybody in it is creating and feeling all of those wonderful feelings, whatever that feeling is that you want to feel at this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and that's what creates the the feeling of, yeah, I like this. Yeah, let's do more of this. The problem comes in when we don't acknowledge our own responsibility for our own feelings. When we say I can't do this anymore, it's because we have put responsibility on somebody else for something they can't accomplish anyway,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah, it's
creating
like
a
going
feeling
after
that,
yeah, it's like going after perfectionism, which isn't it's really something that's not attainable anyways, but it's like chasing after that perfect life or that perfect job, that perfect relationship. There's no such thing as perfect, but what it can be considered perfect if you're looking for perfect is by just living your life as best
yeah,
you can.
yeah,
That's the best way to attain just living that type of lifestyle. But there's really no way to attain perfection. Like there just really isn't. When as a human being, we just can't because we have so many things about ourselves that show up. The way people are. Not everyone's going to like us. Not everyone's going to resonate with us. Not everyone's going to get our sense of humor. And so, chasing after a perfect life, it's really more like what do you want? So
yeah,
for your life to look like, it's
yeah,
chasing. It's really more about how can I live the lifestyle that I want that makes me happy, that based on me being happy to go looking for those things to live that type of life. But yeah, I love this topic about I can't do this anymore because, you know, I've actually found myself there years ago before I got into self development. And I was that go-to person in my family. Oh, like mom this or my brothers this. They'd be talking about each other, or everyone would be talking about each other and saying things. And one day, and I'm living in Florida at the time, and one day thought to myself, wait a second, when did I become mediator? When why am I like you saying, we'll tell her, we'll tell him? That's basically what you were saying. So I said, you know what? Guess what? So and so saying this. Guess what? So and so saying that. Deal with it directly because I felt that I was at the top of my limit, not being able to handle it, to do it anymore because there wasn't really anything like you were saying. How am I able to accomplish a goal when I have absolutely no idea what it is that your expectation is and what they're willing to give and vice versa?
right,
And so it's like I was like, that's it. You guys deal with it. So that
right.
I could back out of the equation and give myself a little peace. So definitely this resonates with me.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, I got to that place at work and in my social circle. With my family, it wasn't so bad because being the oldest, I was the go-to person in my family. I mean, even my mom would come to me with problems all the time. Um, but I never held on to the responsibility for solving everybody's problems. I just did the best that I could and let them, you know, have the results that came from whatever they could do. But with my friends, because I struggled to make friends for most of my young adult or young life, as a child and as a young adult, I struggled to make friends. Whenever I did make friends, I took on the responsibility of their joy and happiness, of their success, of whatever whatever they wanted. I took on the responsibility for that, and they of course freely gave it to me. Um, I managed to attract the kinds of people who felt like they couldn't do anything with their lives, so they were looking for somebody to tell them what to do, and I was looking for a way for friends to stick around and want to be happy. So I was looking to improve all their lives, and so it was just a big mash of codependency and horrible situations. Sure, some of the advice that I gave them worked, um, but that doesn't mean that I was any more successful at creating happiness for myself or them than they would have been on their own. Um, it's this is the situation that we run into is we try and create a world we want, and we expect other people to participate in that world that we want, which is a version of perfection, which is a version of which is some kind of an illusion, some kind of a vision of what we think should happen. And when every little pawn in that illusion doesn't work out exactly the way it's supposed to, we get frustrated. And
Mm-hmm.
if that happens enough, we get frustrated enough to want to quit. And I actually did quit various jobs because of that. I was doing everything I could to create results. We even created international results at a couple of the stores that I worked with. And my own supervisors, my own higher ups wouldn't even recognize my or my coworkers' participation in those results. Right? Our vendors recognized our participation in those results more than our own uplines did.
Mm-hmm.
And that frustrated me, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. This just isn't happening anymore. And I did quit. I quit several jobs for those kinds of reasons, again, because I was putting responsibility on other people that they didn't have for
Right.
my success and happiness, for my joy, for my peace. When eventually, like you said, when I got into this work, I realized that all of those feelings, all of those emotions, all of that life that I want, that doesn't have to do with anybody else. They can do whatever they're doing, create whatever chaos they're creating or peace.
Mm-hmm.
They can create whatever love or hate that they're creating, and I can still find the love, the peace in my life that I want to feel. And it comes from how I show up to me, and then how I show up to the rest of the world. Right? And this is the part that we don't understand when we're creating this symptom of I can't do this anymore. Right? So that's what we've been discussing. It really does come down to, what have I done? What can I do? Who am I in my world, and in the worlds of others? Who am I? How am I showing up? How am I feeling? How am I presenting myself? And really look closely at that, not from your own perspective all the time, because sometimes how we show up to other people isn't how we think we're showing up to other people. So look at yourself and how you show up for yourself, and is it what you want? Do that first. And then when you're satisfied with how you're showing up to yourself, then ask other people how you're showing up to them and how they perceive you. And really pay attention to the answers, because then you can show up the way you want to show up in other people's lives too.
Yeah, I love that you brought attention to that because I actually recently created an exercise of who do I want to be. And I actually went through it for myself. I did a really extensive deep dive into it. And I'm going to be actually introducing it to my clients moving forward because I really truly believe that when we understand who we want to be and then who am I being, because who I want to be and who am I being is really important so that you can then look at, okay, well, if this is who I want to be and this is who I am right now, or what's the life that I want to live and what does that look like? That it can even come down to the people in your life. Like, who do I want to be in my life? Does that mean if this is who I'm looking for, these are the types of people, or this is the lifestyle? Well, what is it that I'm doing right now? What does that even look like? And how close am I to that? And then looking at from the perspective, okay, so maybe I need to tweak here, do something more here so that I can be more of that person, live doing more of those things that helps me to move into that world that I truly want to create for myself. So that again, when you are going through life and you have these moments of I can't do it anymore, I think it becomes less and less of that because you've already started moving the pieces the way you want them to and you're attracting those types of people into your life, but you're also being that person that you want, that you believe that if this is the person I want to be, and these are the people that I want to attract into my life, how close am I to it? What do I need to do to really get there? And then you're creating that world that you really want. So again, as I said, those moments become less and less.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. And the last thing I want to address before we move on to the next part of this is, when is this actually the problem?
Mm.
When when I can't do this anymore, or I I can't do this, or I just can't. When is actually that the problem? When can't you?
Mhm.
When is it not a sign of something deeper? And I'm going to agree with you, Leslie, in a minute, in the sense that it almost never is. There's virtually never a time when it's not a symptom of something deeper. It's almost always a symptom of something deeper. However, there is times when it gets to the point where you really can't do this anymore. The all you have to do is try and swim the English Channel from England to France, and you can find out just how much you can do. If you've never swam before, you'll barely get off the shore. If you've only swam a little bit, you'll barely get out into the water, right? There is a point when it gets too much.
Mhm.
And usually it is a symptom of something deeper, because then you've taken on more than what you can do.
Mhm.
So the deeper thing is that I thought I could do more than I am. But the point still is that there is a time, sometimes, when you just simply can't anymore, where there is not a possibility to keep going on. Part of the self-care is recognizing our own limits, recognizing that, all right, I'm not a swimmer. I can't swim, 20 miles or 50 miles or however long it might be, right? I can't do that. I might be able to do a lap from one end of the pool to the other, maybe. I know when I first started swimming, I could do a half a lap at best. Um, so it's the idea of, when can I do this? If you're feeling overwhelmed around family at Christmas time, then limit your space around family. Limit your time around family. If you're feeling overwhelmed being the mediator for your family, then limit that mediation, right? If you find yourself um, being overwhelmed with all the different responsibilities at work, then talk to your boss about what actually is your job and do only that. If you're feeling overwhelmed with friendships or social situations or whatever, then limit those things. Part of self-care is knowing what's beyond your limit. Sometimes we do push ourselves beyond our limit because we want a result that's outside of our capability. I want my entire office to come to the Christmas party. Great. So if you're going to micromanage everybody's lives so that they can come to the Christmas party, you're probably going to find yourself in over your head. Most
Mhm.
people do when they try and do that. So there are times when it is just too much. And
Yeah.
again, it's usually a symptom of something deeper. Did you bite off something that you couldn't actually chew on? Did micromanaging everybody's lives so they can come to the Christmas party, is that actually what you need to do, or did you just want everybody to come to the Christmas party? Like, what's actually going on there, right? So, but sometimes it does come down to the idea that we've taken on more than what we can actually do, than what one person or what we ourselves are capable of. And even if sometimes somebody else is capable of it, I did this a lot with my ex-wife. She was very, very good at a lot of things that I wasn't good at. So I would try and do the things that she could do. So it wasn't so much that one person isn't capable of those things, because she was. But if I ever tried to try to take on those responsibilities to the level that she was, I failed miserably. And
Mhm.
what I realized over the course of time is, the same goes the other way. There were certain things that I'm good at that she wasn't good at. So if she tried to take on my responsibilities, then she would fail miserably. And this is part of recognizing not just our limitations, but our strength. And who are we? Let's take on those things we're good at, and let somebody else take on those things we're not good at. So it can get to a point where we can't do this anymore, because we're trying to do something that's outside of our limitations, outside of our capabilities, of our personal capabilities, not the outside of anybody's capabilities, but outside of our capabilities. So that's something else I just wanted to address before we move on to the next topic of this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, before we move on, though, I just wanted to add to that too is that sometimes it may not that it's outside of our capability, but it just might be that we just don't have the mental capacity, meaning we got too much going on. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to, but like for me, I think it was a symptom of a deeper problem, which was I was like really super busy and I really just did not want to deal with that anymore. So and I don't even know if it was outside of my mental capacity. I just think because I didn't want to. So I think it was more like it wasn't that I just can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to like bring that up because sometimes we really feel like we want to do a lot more than we actually have the ability to do. And yeah, I think it's important that we realize that it's not always going to be the way that it's not always going to be the way we want it to go, especially in these moments where we say I can't do it anymore versus I don't want to do it anymore, and that can then bring on the guilt. And I did feel that way for a little bit, but this is where you have to actually stand your ground, draw the line in the sand, like enough is enough. So I just wanted to add that in. So definitely lead us along there, Andy. Definitely looking forward
well,
to the
yeah,
next section.
and I like that. It's about what you want. A lot of the times we get into, and actually that's where I was going to go with this. It is
Okay.
about what you want. Um, a lot of times we get into the I can't do this anymore because we have felt pressure
Mm,
to achieve a goal. We have felt a pressure to create a certain situation. I know a lot of women feel the pressure when they get married to have a family,
ooh, yes.
right? Right? When are the kids coming? Um, you know, and it's something that I don't think a lot of us understand how much pressure we put on women to have children, to have a family. Um, I read a research paper one time that said a significant number of divorces happen because of that pressure. Not because the husband wants any expectations of the wife or the wife has any expectations of the husband, but because one or both of them feel outside pressure to have a kind of relationship, to have a kind of family, to do marriage in a certain way that the person or people in the marriage don't even want, right? And so sometimes I can't do this anymore. It doesn't even come from ourselves. Sometimes it comes from outside pressure, but that outside pressure can only get us to the point where I see I can't do this anymore. Again, that's a symptom of I'm accepting their expectations.
Mm,
Other people put expectations upon me and I'm accepting those. If the woman who's feeling pressure from family and friends to have a child or to have children in her marriage, if that woman says, you guys can have your opinions and I'm going to do my life and it's okay for you to have that opinion. I don't, it's not going to hurt me. If she can approach it with that attitude, then there is a much bigger chance that her marriage can stay happy. If the husband has is willing to take the pressure of the friends and family saying you have to provide, she has to make less money than you have to make more money than you, if she gets a better job you have to get an even better job. If he caves to that pressure, then he's going to get to this I can't do it anymore. But if he's willing to let them have their opinion and he's willing to live the life that him and his wife had designed, the life that they've agreed upon together, and there's no pressure coming from each other, but the pressure is coming from outside. If we can let that pressure exist and not have to take it on for ourselves, we can have a happy marriage. We can have a happy life. The same goes for jobs. The same goes for friendships. The same goes for just about any kind of a relationship we have. A lot of the times, I can't do this anymore comes from outside pressure. And if we stick it back to what you said a minute ago, what do I actually want? What do I want in this world? What do I want from my marriage, from my job, from my friends, from my family? What do I want? And the reason the word want is important rather than have to have or need or demand or expect is because want comes with the option to say no.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with the option to say no. And when you give people the option to say no, including yourself, you're a much more likely chance to get a yes. If you set expectations, if you tell them, if you make demands, if you tell them what they have to do or what they're going to do, the little 2-year-old person inside of themselves, and we all have that as much as we'd like to deny it, the little 2-year-old part of our personality is going to go, no, not going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, do you want this? Then that little 2-year-old never gets engaged because that 2-year-old doesn't know how to make decisions. But if we say, do you want this? Then the more mature version of our brain goes, let me think a minute. Do I want that? Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. And they get to choose. And when they get to choose, they're more often going to say yes, because part of the choice is, I want to give you what you want. Part of the deciding factors, if we get past that 2-year-old decision-making brain, is, yeah, I want to make you happy. So if it's an even scale, I want to and I don't want to, and I'm not really decided one way or the other, then the deciding factor might be, well, I want to do what you want because I don't really have a preference. So let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Right.
Yeah,
So
I
what you
love
want is
that.
important.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think you were speaking to the choir when you were saying about the whole thing around having pressure to have children. I never really got the pressure so much from family, neither one of us did, but it was more external. People that I didn't know very well were asking me, through work environment because we had moved from different places. And I remember specifically one encounter with a young girl, a young woman, I should say, who had asked me if we were going to have children. And I said, no, we've decided we're not going to. And she was like, what do you mean? You have to. And I said to her, no, I actually don't. I
Right.
don't have to. I was able to actually stand my ground because I truly believed that it comes down to choice. Why would I bring a child into a world where I don't really want to have? I had changed my mind about having children. Now, when I was younger, my goal was to have six, believe it or not. Now, I came from a family of five kids,
Right.
but I wanted to have six. And I was like, yeah, no, I think now because we've decided, because we made this agreement together, we went through the journey of the process of deciding what we wanted our life to look like together as we were moving from place, deciding how we are going to live our life, the environment, the lifestyle. And we gave ourselves a few years to really dig into living the lifestyle we were living. And if we chose that over having children, that was fine. We were both open to that. But it was really funny when someone told me that it was a must that I have children. And it was, no, it's not necessarily that I have to, because then that would mean you would say to someone who might not be able to have children biologically that they must have children, and that would cut too deep, and I would think that would be very unfair. So it's really unfair to put your expectations onto someone else, and I would never do that. So for me, I had no problem standing up for myself, saying my husband and I decided together that children are not part of our journey, and that is okay because both of us, number one, we recognize that on both sides of our family there were plenty of children. So it wasn't like we were carrying on anything beyond, and that was okay. And I was open to that. I was okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's amazing. That pressure was only kind of distant from people you didn't know much. Um, I've heard from several people that's been a pressure on their own lives. As a matter of fact, some people had children because it was expected from their families they were supposed to. Um, so when I discovered that research that said a significant amount of divorces, something like 25% of divorces happen because of that outside pressure, not just for children, but for her to have children and for him to have to be the breadwinner, to have the biggest income. Between those two pressures, that was the biggest reason for divorce.
Mhm.
That surprised me because, like you, I would never want to put that kind of pressure on somebody. You do you. You do what makes you happy. If you and your husband have decided on a thing, then do that. That makes me happy. You being happy makes me happy, right? So it never occurred to me that would be the case. And of course, when my ex-wife and I got together, we intended to have children. Both of us wanted children, so we never felt that pressure. The pressure we felt was she did make more money than me for almost our entire relationship. And while I didn't have direct pressure from my family about that, my family did disrespect us as a couple. They were less respectful to us as a couple than they were to my two siblings, because my wife made more money than I did, because I didn't
Mhm.
have that big breadwinning job that they thought I should have.
Mhm.
Um, and so those are part of this, where we get to, I can't do this anymore. And part of, and as we were talking about before, the solution for that is, and to do what you want to do, to learn how to deal with the external pressures, learn how to, like you did, I'm going to, my husband and I have decided this is what we're going to do, so this is what we're going to do. If you want to create the joy and peace and happiness in your life that you can have, if you are able to focus on yourself and focus on, your partner, and focus on yourself first and your partner second, and then, the rest of the friends and family after that, if you're able to do that, then one of the ways that you're going to want to address is the pressures that come from outside. And the other half of that is, don't be the pressure from outside for someone else. Don't set your expectations on other people. And I think for most of us, this is the most difficult part, because we all have opinions as to how people should be acting, how people should be treating us and other people. We all have expectations as to what we think is the right way to do things. Whether it's a matter of, all couples should have babies, or all couples that are capable should have babies, or whether it's, all drivers should stay in their lane unless they signal to move out of their lane, or whether it's all people who shop should shop on, Sundays instead of Saturdays, or whether people who, do Christmas shopping should do it on a Wednesday instead of the busiest day of the year. I mean, whatever your thought is, whatever you think people should do, that is what's creating external pressure for those people. Um, so don't accept the external pressure from others, and don't create it for those around you. Those are the two ways to help yourself and other people prevent this, I can't do this anymore, right? To be gentle with yourself first, and to be gentle with other people around you second. Right? Don't put expectations on them. Don't put expectations on yourself unless it's what you want. And if it's what you want, understand what you can accomplish, what you're likely to accomplish, and what you will accomplish. Right? Those are all things that can help contribute to your peace, joy, and happiness.
Yeah, I agree. And I think though the hard part is if you're not willing, or actually let's just step that back a second. If you've not really been like engrossed in self-development, taking that journey, deciding for yourself that you want change, but you're willing to actually put in a little bit of the work or some of the work to at least look at it closer, and then perhaps maybe go down through your own development journey, getting, learning about how to make changes in your life that best help you to be, to show up in the world the way you want, so that you start reflecting back, your world starts reflecting back to you the things that you want. I think that can be really hard for people to say, well, I can't do this anymore because this is my expectation. It's what I learned growing up. This is how a woman is supposed to be. This is how a man's supposed to be. This is how a marriage is supposed to be. Yes, you get married, you start a family. Yes, you get married, you start a family. And as you get older, you actually take care of your aging parents. They move into your house, and then you become the parent and they become the child. Those are all like things that I had to listen to even for myself growing, as I was married and decided, I knew that I wanted something more for my life. I just didn't know where it was going to take me. And when I got married, my husband and I, we moved to Florida for 12 years. That we immediately, 6 months later, we moved away. And
Yeah.
spoiler alert. I mean, not spoiler alert, but actually just say transparency here. I didn't tell my mother I was moving until 3 months before we were leaving Canada and moving down to the
Right.
US. And it was because I knew that there would be criticism, that there would be pushback.
Yeah.
And I wasn't strong enough to say right from the get go, this is what I'm doing. And because I'm an adult, so if I choose to do this for my life, what's wrong with that? Nothing, right? But I put a lot of, there was a lot of fear for me to face my family and tell them. And it still, like, listen, that wasn't the first time. The very last time that this happened was when it happened a couple more times, but the very last time this happened, where I didn't even say anything at all. We moved from Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada, up in on the West Coast, down to California, to San Diego. And once we got settled, I let my family know, and I was met with like such pushback. I'm like, "What do you mean you're in California? When did you
Yeah.
decide to do that?" And again, it was, well, what do you mean? Because the last time I looked, I was an adult, able to make my own life decisions, and this is what I chose to do. You've known that this is about me, that I like to live in different places, and this is my lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it became an expectation on my mom's side when she started to really, let me know the reason behind the pushback was from her generation, was that, the kids, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, the kids ended up bringing their parents into the home with them, and they became the caregiver as their parents were aging. I love that scenario if that's what you choose to do. I think that's beautiful. But who says that I couldn't take care of her in the lifestyle I'm living? Meaning I
Right.
can, help provide for her and make sure that she has the things that she needs when she needs them. So
Right.
there was no reason that I couldn't still care for her, but her version was a lot different from mine. And it was
Right.
I allowed myself to like be able to say, look, this is how I see it. It doesn't mean I can't take care of you, but it's just not going to look the same way to you, the way it looks
Right.
to me, how I want it to be. So that's really important, I think, for especially what's really helped me to, as you were saying, have this marriage of almost 27 years in a couple of months, and be able to, look at it from, okay, what is it that I want to do? What does it look like to have a fun relationship? And that only really became more apparent to me in the last 6 years, or the last 5 years, I should say, of my personal development journey, almost 6 years. And I recognize that, oh, this is what it looks like for me, really is more about making choices that align with the life I want to live, and then being able to let people know. And this comes down under what you work around with is the boundaries part, like the personal boundaries.
Yeah.
This is what I want, and so that whole, getting back to this question of problem or symptom, I can't do this anymore. I think part of that is not only that it's self-care related, but it's really about boundaries, not only the
Yes.
personal boundaries that you have with other people, but with yourself, being able to
Yes.
say no.
Yeah.
That is the thing. And I think that can be really super scary.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it there because it is about boundaries. In the end, I can't do this anymore. The solution is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest version of those boundaries is the boundaries with yourself. When you understand your limitations, when you understand what you're capable of doing, what you want to do, what you feel you're willing to do, when you understand those things, then the very next step is to set some boundaries around this is what I intend, this is what I'm willing to accept, and this is what I won't accept, right? And saying these are the ways that I'm going to enforce those values. These are the ways that I'm going to promote those values. These are the ways I'm going to communicate those values. And when we set up appropriate boundaries to help, um, first of all, inform people of what it is we want, and second of all, help to reinforce those boundaries or reinforce those values with boundaries. When we set up boundaries to do that, what we find is more joy, more peace, more happiness, more love, more creativity, more of the things we love about our lives, more of the
Mm-hmm.
things we've wanted from our lives. And people tend to resist those less. When we're able to give ourselves and the people we care about more of what we want and what they want from us, people tend to resist our decisions less. As long as they understand that I'm not going to accept your expectations and demands of me, but I will give you what I can give you, what I intend to give you. Taking care of your mom, for example, she doesn't have to live with you for you to take care of her, right? There is plenty of scenarios where you can take care of her without her living with you, because I'm sure she wouldn't want to travel all over the country as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you can still take care of her, right? And I'm sure that you do. So understanding that there is different ways that these things can happen. Boundaries help us to do that. Boundaries help us to create, first of all, protect ourselves from those harmful situations, but most importantly, help to invite people in situations that are closer to what we want. The difference with unconditional boundaries, the way I teach them, is they're most of the time an invitation to closer relationships with different people. They're a way to define what my relationships are, so people who don't want those know to stay away, and people who
Mm-hmm.
do want those can are invited closer. And that's the magic of being able to set boundaries. The way I help people do that is because then we get to not just protect ourselves from those, harmful people and their expectations and demands, but we also get to invite people closer who share our values, who want what we want, who who like what we like, and want to be involved in those things that we're doing with our lives, right? You and your husband have traveled all over North America. Um, excuse me. You've traveled. You've lived in several places, sometimes for years at a time, and that's created joy for both of you. And that's because you've been able to communicate together for years now. I want to live this kind of a lifestyle. I'd rather live that kind of a lifestyle. Let's go here. Let's try that. And you discuss those things, from your careers to where you live to what you're going to do with your family. That's what boundaries look like. You communicate what you want. You set up some reactions, some intentional reactions as to how you want to react, and you get what you want from your life. You tend to get more of what you want from your life when you're able to communicate what you want, when you're able to set ways for people to understand what you want and set doors for them to come in and out of your life based on your values, based on how much their values match yours. This is the whole point, and the more we can create scenarios that people understand what we want, the more we can create scenarios where people who don't want that just stop hanging around us. And the
Mm-hmm.
people who do want that will get closer. The more clear we can make our values, the more clear we can communicate our values, the more often we will find situations where I do want to keep doing this. Where I can't do this anymore isn't even a thing that comes up, because we don't get frustrated if we're able to communicate what our values are, or if we're able to communicate with other people in concise and effective ways. If we're able to help them see what we want and to easily see what they want, then we get choice, they get choice, and everybody who's there is choosing to be there, instead of the ones who feel we have to because I'm your sister, I'm your brother, I'm your mother, I'm your father. I don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
right? The more we get choice, the more we get what we want. The more other people get choice, the more they get what they want. And the more we get what we want together, the closer we become as family, as friends, as coworkers, the closer we become as social units completely. And that's one of humanity's basic drives, is social connection. This is how you create it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part of that too is boundaries is self-care. And that's why Andy and I are so aligned in what we do, because what we do goes together. Boundaries is part of taking care of you. It's part of your self-care practice. So it's
Absolutely.
not just about going out and getting a mani-pedi or getting your hair cut or having a bubble bath in the middle of the day or going for a long walk on the beach or spending time with family and friends, community, creating those deeper bonds. That's part of your self-care, absolutely. But those boundaries around the times that you're going to set aside for yourself to do all of those things, that is intertwined. That's why, again, as I said, that's why we're so
Yes.
aligned in what we do, and why we have been able to create what I call magic on these calls is because
Yeah.
we are within the space really does intertwine with each other. So yeah, I love this conversation. It's amazing. We're coming up to the end of the hour. If we make it to the hour, we don't have to, but I think it's really powerful to recognize that it really comes down to asking yourself this question: what do I want?
What do I
And
want?
because I think if you can just and take yourself away from the what I don't want, and if it comes down to what I don't want, well, I don't want to have to live with my parents, but I want to be able to still care for them. I don't want to be the intermediary for everybody's problems, but I want to be able to help them in a way so that they can feel confident enough to approach each other.
Yeah.
Finding like the balance to that, right? Figuring out that if you what do you don't want will help you find what you do want. I don't want to I don't want to buy a house because I want to be able to move from place to place. That was one of our things that we said to each other. Be, uh, I don't want to buy a house because that keeps me stuck and in one place, and it takes time for us to sell or to pick up and move just easily. Whereas we want to be able to rent and be able to like move if we want to on a dime. We didn't want to have children, and that wasn't because we don't love kids. It was because the lifestyle that we wanted to live meant that having children would mean uprooting them. And part of that was I didn't want to do that because I knew what being uprooted so many times as a young child can do to a child.
Yeah.
And it's hard to create bonds and keep, and when you have to move and move and move all the time. Instead, we wanted to have a lifestyle. It was the two of us. We were enjoying life and making new connections and having new opportunities arise and experiences, collecting those experiences. So the what I don't want really helps to solidify what I do want, and that means again the lifestyle, the life you want to live. So as I said, I created the who do I want to be was really important for me, and I went through this process because it helped me solidify more and more what my life, but also to be able to help the people that I work with. And I think it's just learning to be able to do that. So if you want to know how to live your life, being able to say yes to things that serve you, no to things that don't, or maybe not right now, and coming up with a different solution around this question of problem or symptom. I can't do this anymore. What do I do? Is just that, just sitting down and like, okay, well, if you can't do this anymore, what is really going on, and what can you do? So instead of saying I can't do this anymore, what can you do? That helps you to like start looking for the solution rather than looking at the obstacle. So that's my tip for to end out this year. Andy, anything that you want to add to that?
I love that. What do I want? The one simple question, what do I want? And sometimes, like you said, sometimes that's precluded by what do I not want or what don't I want? What do I don't want? The but the goal here is what do I want? Because that gets rid of I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes what can I do? That becomes the answer to everything else. What do I want? Puts me at the top of the list. But what do I want doesn't mean that nobody else can want stuff too. What do I want can include I want my family to be happy, right? So I want to cook every night, but I don't want to do the dishes. Great. But that might mean I also want to provide for my family. I also want to cook for my family. So it can include my kids want cereal for supper. Great. My kids want this or that, or my husband wants this, or my wife wants that. I can cook for them. I'm just doing the cooking. It can include the wants and values of other people. What I want can include those things, but it starts with what I want, right? I'm at the top of the list, but that doesn't mean I'm the only one on the list. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people who resist putting themselves first, is they think putting themselves first means that they don't include anybody else.
Mhm.
And that's completely the opposite. If you put yourself first, you're able and willing to include more people more often because you have more to give. If you put yourself first, right? If you do that, then yourself comes. Then you're creating such an overflow and abundance of whatever it is you want: success, happiness, joy, all that. If you have an abundance of those things, then you're able to give and offer more to other people. So I love that. What do you want? It all comes down to one question: what do you want? If you're coming to I can't do this anymore, then reverse that. What can I do? What do I want? Ask yourself that in peace, in quiet. Maybe meditate a little bit, pray, whatever the thing is you got to do. But ask yourself, what do I want?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you, all of you, for who've been with us this year, last 2 years. But this year's been really super special because we decided to go weekly. And it's been just such an evolution. I've really loved how this has grown and become more, I don't know if it's mature, but it's just been really a lot of fun. I enjoy these conversations. One of the things that really brings me a lot of joy around these conversations is there's no really pre-planning except what are we going to talk about, and let's just hop on the call. So I
Right.
really, really love that we're able to again be in such alignment that we can do
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
with such ease and flow, grace, joy. I'm really grateful for these moments. So we want to thank you all for sticking around. We hope that you have subscribed. If you haven't, please hit the subscribe so that you don't miss any of the next upcoming videos that we're going to be starting brand new in January. And also share the YouTube link around so that you can get more people involved in the conversations, so that they, not necessarily for our accolades, but for them, so that they, if there's something that they've been wanting to hear more about and no one's really bringing that into the conversation for them, there's a lot of videos that we've done over the past couple of years that might be even really super helpful. So share it around, like, comment, let us know if there's anything in 2023 that you'd like us to cover. We are always open to suggestions.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all for a wonderful 2022. We look forward to serving you even more in 2023. This has been a wonderful year. We're so grateful for you, our audience, but also I'm grateful to you, Leslie, for these conversations. This has been such a wonderful journey. We've done some great things together. I look forward to what the future brings, what next year is going to offer us. I'm really grateful for what we've created here, and thank you, our audience, for sticking with us, for being with us throughout this whole time. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We
Yeah,
hope that you have a great holiday season and an awesome 2023.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, with on that note, have a great rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your year, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye, everybody.